to the tutor.
I wanted to just leave it as Josh for a while, but decided against it.
Saw that coming.
A little new shades action over there, Joshy?
Yeah, man. Just trying to spice things up.
Fair. Spice things up like your team. Your team needs some spicing up, you know?
Woo, it's looking pretty good right now.
Well, we'll get into that in a second. Moresco, also looking pretty fresh over there.
Clean shaven. I'm growing it out until I win the next championship.
This is the beginning of the playoff beard right here. A couple of years in the making.
Yeah. That could be a long time, buddy.
I'll be shaving in about 5 weeks, 6 weeks from now.
6 weeks? What are you going to be winning in 6 weeks?
In his
championship,
dreams.
baby.
We'll have to see. Sorry that we're a little late here for our single viewer of Ben, starting a few minutes later than usual. I was out at a little bourbon tasting club with my dad and a few others called Bourbon Buddies. So I was drinking and had to get back home quickly. But we can. Are you guys drinking anything tonight? I'm done with my drink for the evening, but I don't know if this was a accompaniment type of show.
No, I'm just drinking liquid death. I'll be honest.
Yeah, sticking with the water.
How about you? Just water. All right.
Just water, buddy.
Well, as Ben mentioned, we opened the show with a little JSN highlight. I am a newly converted JSN lover of JSN, mainly for his promise next year. But we can get into the recaps for this week. Moresco, I think you're going to take us through most of these. Here's one that's not a great one to start with, which I feel like I say every week.
Before we move on, you're a lover of JSN, just like you are a lover of Kirk Cousins.
Okay, we won't even touch on that one.
Okay.
I was just
Kirk Cousins is where he's supposed to be, which is out of the league.
I had never finished the quarterback, so I just watched one of the episodes, and Kirk was all up in it. So thought it was fun to watch.
Yeah. There's a little too much Kirk on that show for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. But yeah, let's run through these quick because I know we have a big time guest today. I mean, this recap we can get through pretty quick. I mean, my team kind of played pretty well. Clark's about to break my losing record here now, 2 more weeks, and my record that I thought would never be beaten might be beaten. So whoever's playing Clark this week, come on. But no, I mean, I'm happy with my 2 new receivers. I mean, I'm on with 14's pretty average for him, but Devonta had a good week. And then Ben, I would be doing Ben a disservice if I didn't shout out Freiermuth. Ben is all about Freiermuth. I've gotten about 25 texts from him in the last week about Freiermuth and how good he is and how good of a trade it was. So got to give him a shout out there. But no, I mean, Clark, a few solid players there. I mean, you're kind of in that trade for keeper mentality right now. So I don't think you're too worried about wins and losses at this point. But Dalton Schultz not really doing anything for you. And your receivers, Debo and DJ having some solid weeks, but see if you offload Tua here or not, but we'll see what he does.
I don't know if there's going to be much of a market for him at this rate, to be honest with you. The last few weeks have been pretty rough. Our picks this week, you guys went with the right person. I had some false placed hope in myself, as did the coin.
Do you think you're just going to pick whoever you're playing from here on out?
Pick whoever I'm playing? Like who ends up in my starting lineup?
No, just like whoever you're playing against. Are you just going to pick them every week from here on out because you've already lost quite a few in a row?
We'll get into it this week. I'm playing for draft money at this point. I think my team, when healthy, is surprisingly better than you'd think. It's just I've had some health issues, even with newly acquired trades. So we'll get into that. We'll get into that coming up.
We'll get into that. The battle of the commissioners, eh? No, I mean, we had that co-commissioner on who we'll see if he's become commissioner after this year. But he said he just needs to keep winning, and he keeps winning to make the playoffs. So we'll see if he can keep winning out to have a shot. I mean, his points forward are weak and continue to be weak, but he snuck this one out against Dave. I mean, Dave's team minus Tyreek really struggled this week, and his defense and kicker put up some points. But Dave went straight to the trading block right after the week and made some moves. So be interesting to see what Dave's team does this upcoming week. But yeah, Dan really just kind of riding Mahomes, and then finally had some good weeks from his backs that have been pretty rough this year with Pollard and Najee, both putting up pretty solid weeks for the first time, I think, probably the whole year together. So it's nice to see Pollard probably get in the end zone for him, and see if Dan can keep winning.
Yeah. First, I mean, it's still a minus 100-point showing from both parties here. And the coin surprisingly got a breakaway. Breakaway correct pick.
Whoops.
This coin is smart.
Yeah.
We'll see. You'll see what the record of the coin is at the end of this.
Oh, man, I think Ryan's coming back to reality here with this week. But good solid week from Chris. I mean, we've been high on his team. He's made some moves. And I think if he keeps winning, he can make a splash in the playoffs. I mean, solid all around. Dak and Dallas's D is just every week seems to be putting up points. I mean, we'll see when they start playing some winning teams here how they do, but it's got to be nice to see Garrett and AJ Brown put up decent weeks. Nothing crazy, and especially putting up 130 points with Eckler only putting up 6 is kind of a big thing for Jonesy. I think he doesn't have to ride Eckler like a lot of fantasy teams would have to. But yeah, Ryan's team, I mean, had a 100+ point week. He's got Kyler back now. Ridley's gone off. Kamara's another solid week. I mean, Ryan's kind of in the same boat as Dan, though. Has to keep winning to have a chance at the playoffs. But I think if you had asked us at the beginning of the year if Ryan would be in the position to be able to potentially make the playoffs, we would have laughed. So good on him for making some moves and staying in the league, even though he's trying to make some terrible trades. But anyways, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll dig into the trade nonsense. My bold prediction, as we all made the correct pick this week, is that Ryan will be in a better playoff position than Josh will by the end of the season. So we'll get there, but that's what I'm calling right now.
Oh man, yeah, Kevin's team, solid week. He showed up. He Hurts, I mean, just goes off, and then Kyron. I was looking through this earlier, and if you look at it, Hurts, Miami's D, and Kyron almost put up 100 on their own, the three of them together. So didn't really need much more from his team. It's kind of a bummer for Micah because Micah's team, I think, put up maybe the most points he's put up all year and still lost. But CJ Stroud, I think, if you look at Micah's team and the people that put up points this week, it's all potential keepers for him. So it's he's looking healthy for following season with Stroud, Flowers, Pacheco, some of these guys that are on his team. I mean, even his defense put up -3 points and still put up 117 points. So, but solid week from Kevin. I mean, Kevin's kind of in that same boat, has to keep winning. A lot of us just have to keep winning to have a chance at the playoffs and see what Kevin can do.
It's going to be a tight run. Worth pointing out here, as we'll get to in some trade discussion later, Micah almost traded away 60 points this week from this endeavor. But 3 of us made the correct selection, going with Weggy to get the win over Micah.
Yeah, so this one, I mean, Ben, I think, clinched the playoffs with this win. His team is looking solid as ever. Another 138-point week. I feel like he's just putting up points every week. If you look at the top 6 players on his team, everyone had 14 or higher. So that's just really good across the board. No, I mean, besides McCaffrey, who you expect to have 20 to 30 points, everyone else was just kind of solid across the board. So Nat also had another good week, put up a lot of points to kind of solidify that point position she needs. I think Nat's in a good spot for the playoffs, but she does need to win out. And I think if she does, even if she loses out, she's probably in the playoffs just from her points if she keeps putting them forward. But I mean, it'll be interesting to see this week without her 2 stalwarts on bye. But yeah, solid week by her, but just unfortunately ran into Ben, who's hot as ever.
Which we all predicted, sans the coin. I would also say, I wonder if Mostert is the surprise fantasy player of the year in terms of his production. I think he's a top 5 running back right now, which I don't think anyone coming into looking at a Miami running back situation would have predicted that.
He captained him too, I think, right?
Yeah, he was acquired in that controversial deal last year.
Yeah.
Don't bring that one up again. Anyways,
Just did.
On to the next matchup. Close one. Unfortunate for Mitch to lose this one, but good win by Hannah to give herself a little bit of hope. Lawrence, Lamb, and Henry pretty much did enough for her entire team to kind of make it a win here. Mitch was doing so well for the last few weeks and just unfortunately came into a bad week. But it's an unfortunate loss for him as he's making a push for the playoffs, I think, just because of where he's at on the table. But same boat. If he wins out, he's in. I'm pretty positive about that. So it doesn't really set him back too far, but you just really hope Cooper's injury is not too long term for him, and then hopefully the rest of his players can keep putting up points.
And this game really broke away from Mitch towards the end of the Monday night matchup because Fields had 2 turnovers, in the fourth quarter of this game, and then the Vikings couldn't move the ball. I mean, they used Hawkinson a fair amount, but it could have really gone Mitch's way down the stretch had the Monday night game finished a little differently.
I mean, Hawkinson got that touchdown to put him within striking distance, right?
That's true. Maresco and I putting our faith in Mitch this week. Didn't quite scrape it out. Josh with another solid pick, unfortunately. Speaking of which, another down to the wire game.
Yeah, down to the wire. Unfortunate that Josh got the win, but he did. It's actually interesting if you look at it. Riley Patterson started the week off for Matt with -1 points after the first game on Thursday, and then he lost the game because Keenan Allen fumbled the ball and got him -points. If Keenan Allen hadn't fumbled, he would have won the game. So, but yeah, I mean, lucky for Josh to run into Matt on this kind of week because Matt's team usually doesn't put up these kind of weeks, and I think for Matt it's probably doesn't feel great, but at the same time you're hoping you don't put these up in the playoffs, so get them out of your system a little early. But Josh's team got his a little under original projected, but his team is looking solid. I will give him that, and I think the trade for Gibbs this week will be interesting to see moving forward. He's got a lot of backs that are like young and have a lot of value. So, but yeah, good win by Josh, unfortunately. But yeah.
Scraped by. Hate to see it. We don't like to see Josh winning these types of games.
No, you hate to see it.
And Josh didn't even pick himself to win this game, as a side note.
Did not. I did not think I would pull it out.
Sacrificing picking points for the fantasy win seems to be the trend.
I'll take it.
Which brings us to our quick roundup of picks this week. We didn't bet any fab on this because last week was kind of a condensed show. But Josh, yet again, maintains the picking championship week. I kind of agree with Ben here, though. I do think that you should probably lose a win if you pick against yourself. So really, this is forward failure for me to Spider and Nebraska, which on the season still keeps the guess in the coin below 500. With Josh, I wouldn't say pulling away, but maintaining a healthy lead here. Josh, anything to say here quickly before we move past your quick moment and pick a success? I can't hear you. Can you hear us? Are you muted?
I think we're having an audio issue.
Is it on my end?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it is on your end, Clark.
Oh, no. Let's see. It's on my internet. It's getting robots. Can you hear me or no?
Well put, Ben.
I literally unplugged mine because I thought it was just the sound on my AirPods.
Okay, let me do this. I'm going to restart this real quick if I can, and see if that'll bring us back in. I don't want to end the stream, but I want to try to reboot us real quick.
The comments are going wild on this guy.
Can you guys hear each other okay?
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, yours is still better.
Can you hear me now or no?
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that better?
Yep.
Just an Apple headphones problem, I guess. All right. Apologies. Apologies. We will. Josh, what I was asking was any comment on your pick'em success up to this point? before we move on past your success? We're giving you a brief moment in the limelight here.
I'm good at what I do, Clark. I know my shit. It's all set.
All right. Keep that one on the record. I don't think you're gonna end on the top of the season picks here. So we'll see. Quick housekeeping.
You'd have to really F up to not finish on the top, I'll be honest. So.
I don't know. We got a lot of weeks left. And if we continue this into the playoffs, which I don't know if we will or won't, but you could catch him.
I don't know. I don't really take much from the guy who's lost, 9 in a row?
8 in a row. Get it right. I'm not Chris Moresco circa a few years ago over here, all right?
You're getting pretty close.
No. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised here soon. But enough about that. Get into housekeeping real quick. Well, 1 second.
Man, another delay.
Sorry, a little room disturbance. Fantasy Fab. We had the biggest turkey leg, kicker with the longest field goal, and that's going to end up going to me. Go figure.
You won something.
I'm happy for you, Clark.
We're just happy for him.
That's right. It pays to have the best kicker in the league, or second best. Waggy likes to remind me how good he is. I apologize. Constant interruptions on my end over here. We're just all over today. We'll get into next week's Fab Wheel here in a bit. But before we go any further, is my internet connection bad now too? What is with today?
No, you're good. You're good. I'm laughing at Dan's comment.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. It was a child. There's some little kid running around the building that's trying to get into every room over here. Opened all 4 common space doors around me. So, but before we get going, we really don't need to intro this guest. Everyone knows who it is. Everyone's been excited and expectant for this. We had a kind of a teaser of a fake commissioner on earlier this year, and there was a lot left wanting. So without further ado, we welcome Not a Survivor to the show.
Wow.
Welcome.
Hello, boys.
What's up, man?
Ooh, a lot of things these days.
Yeah.
Not my record.
Before we get into the meat of things, we got some trade talk to do with you. We got some interview stuff to do with you, Dave. What's your feeling towards both your team and the league this year? Kind of just right off the bat.
I would say parental disappointment, maybe. I think I expected more of some of our league members. I expect better. I hold us to a high standard. No, man, I think it's actually been a really fun year. I think that with the 14 teams, I feel like it's been pretty competitive. I think, honestly, kind of with talking about the playoff push, it's probably one of the more competitive, final couple weeks of the season. Nobody's completely selling out just yet, outside of maybe 1 or 2 teams towards the bottom. So yeah, I think league-wise, it's been real fun. Ryan and Mike have been great additions. I think real interactive, kind of fresh jolt of energy to the league. My team's a little. I mean, it's a team, It's a collection of players. So I like the wide receiver. I kind of leaned into the heavy wide receiver thing, which has been fun. But I mean, I've kind of been. I'm not. Let's just say I'm not very confident in how far my team is going to go in the playoffs. I'm just kind of having fun with it. So I feel like on paper my team's not as good as the other teams. I've gotten pretty lucky on wins, so my standing is good. But hey, all you have to do is get to the playoffs, and then anything can happen. So that's where we're at.
Fair. Well, I think Josh and Marissa, you guys have some additional questions here.
Yeah. Go for it, Josh.
I don't have the list of questions. Do you have the list of questions?
I have the list of questions, but you said
Josh has the list of questions. He just can't read them through those ridiculous eyeglasses on his face.
Anyways, Clark asked a couple of the questions right off the rip, but what would you say? How has the 14-man league strategy league affected your strategy in some regards? Has it changed your lookout on how you play fantasy, or has it kind of stayed the same? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Not enough. I haven't changed my strategy enough. I think next year, I'll change a few more things. I think the biggest thing, thinking back to the draft, I kind of went with this studs and duds approach I've done before, which is like you spend a lot of money for a couple good players, and then you bank on being able to pick up guys off waivers, or kind of like replaceable positions like quarterback. Like, oh, I can pick up a quarterback to stream off of waivers. Whereas obviously once I lost Chubb, that's $70 in my budget, and then I didn't really have depth behind him. So I feel like, and then waivers are super thin too, right? So I think moving forward, I think having depth is more important, and then maybe having some depth. Like I'm never one to carry two quarterbacks. I'm like, oh, I'd rather carry extra running backs. I can pick up a quarterback off waivers, but based on my experience this year, you might want to have some backups. So I think that's how I would change it going forward.
Yeah. Are you? Do you think you're surprised at all by like the waiver activity, trade activity this year in our league, or like the difference? I definitely feel the same thing. I think our league has always been way better on waivers than other leagues I participate in. Like, there's not a lot of players available, but I feel like this year is especially crazy when it comes to it because there's 2 extra rosters. But what are your feelings and thoughts on like all the trade activity we've had this year and the waiver activity?
I think it's been fun. Lots of trades this year, which I think you guys have talked about before, but I think part of it's just less options on waivers. So if you want to spice things up with your team, you're not really going to make significant changes by picking up guys on waivers to make a big move. You got to make a trade. So I think that's good. But I think part of it too is just people are more, I think, risk tolerant maybe. Like I know every trade is going to have some risk to it because you're like, your team you could get the wrong end of it. So I think in years past, some people have been more hesitant to trade, not wanting to lose a trade. But I think this year people are just more willing to shake things up.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any enticing offers to expand the league any further, or we set at 14 for a while? Whatever, about any more expansion teams coming in?
No, I mean, I'm happy at 14. You guys tell me if you want more, but I might be about tapped out. I think it'll be interesting after this season to see if anybody has any rule changes, right? Like I think we've kept the rules the same for most of the history, which is nice because it gives people kind of a consistent expectation for scoring and rosters and stuff like that. So, but we'll have our regular off-season survey that normally gets like 2 votes on it, and then we'll see what changes we make for next year.
Yeah. I mean, the co-commissioner is very active in the comment section, and we have a question for you regarding him. But the 2 timers altogether have kind of put together a proposal to see if we could vote him out as co-commissioner, having a vote for another co-commissioner to come in. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
You know, not opposed.
Oh.
But no, I would say the only one thing I'd say about Dan is I will give Dan credit because I'm pretty sure Dan created the league, right? Like I think Dan brought me in as the co-commissioner in 2016, right? Which was really his plan all along. Probably was like, hey, I'm just going to get this thing off the ground, and then as soon as possible, offload all of the responsibility. But I do think like Dan was the one who pulled the league together initially, and so I give him kudos for all that. So. Dan provides, Dan's a busy man. He provides some entertainment throughout the year. He collects the dues, but I don't know what else Dan really does around here, to be honest.
To be fair, along with collecting dues, Dan has been noted to be interested in gambling away league dues as well.
I was curious about that. I would be curious. I know we talked about it a year or 2 ago, but I don't think I'd be curious to see if he did it and then just never told anybody about like if it lost money, right? Or a game money, right? So I'd be down. I mean, I don't know if I would be, but maybe only if it appreciated. Like I'd be down if it appreciates, and then he'd take on the liability.
Yeah. No. Before we get into trade talk, because I have a question about that, but you keep mentioning in the slide decks about the consolation thing. So I was wondering if you guys had any further decisions on the consolation bracket, how that's going to work this year, or if that's still kind of up in the air.
Yeah, man. So consolation is a little different this year just because Yahoo doesn't support a 8-team consolation bracket. I pinged their customer support and they said they don't do it. So basically the default for Yahoo is teams 7 through 12 would make it into the consolation, but basically teams 13 and 14 have nothing to do after week 14. So I don't like that. So I know that
I didn't know this.
So here's the thing, man. If you read through the slide decks I sent out, you'd see it kind of on the second to last slide. So basically, what we're going to do is I know that the commission, like Yahoo, allows me to do some amount of reseeding during the playoffs. Like I know a lot of people do these manual reseedings based on points for and stuff like that, which we've never done. We've kind of just stuck to whatever the platform gives us. So what the plan is for the the plan for the consolation bracket is basically it's going to be a battle royale every week. So basically we're going to eliminate the bottom 50. So basically seeding doesn't matter. We're just going to say everybody's in the same bucket. You got to be in the top 50% of the scores for the week out of the consolation bracket, and the bottom 50% get eliminated. And so what that means for the first week, for week 14, you guys got 8 teams, 4 getting, so 4, the bottom 2, the lowest 2 scores in week 14 out of the consolation bracket go into the toilet bowl. And then those, whatever, 11 and 12 are eliminated. Next week, you drop it from 4 to 2, and then the final you're down to 2. So that's all dependent on Yahoo allowing me to reseed essentially and control that. If not, I'll have to do it manually and kind of provide screenshots of what people's scores are in the moment, because you should be able to still set a lineup on your phone even if you don't have an actual opponent. Like I know that's how it's been in the past when you're eliminated. You can still move players around on your phone and stuff like that, or maybe on the platform. So it's going to be real wonky. I just ask people to just be patient, but just know like, hey, still set your lineup for the consolation bracket. And then I will or maybe Daniel, the actual co-commissioner, will track and then like kind of throughout the weekend post screenshots of what the top scores are looking like. So you can track that. But that's the plan. And then the toilet bowl. So those 2 teams that are the bottom 2 in week 15 would be those bottom 2 scores in week 15. They'll go into a 2-week playoff where essentially they're going head to head for week 16 and 17, but it's your cumulative score between the 2 weeks. So it's not like, oh, you were the lower team in week 16, you're out. It's like you could be the lower team by 10 points in week 16, but if you beat your opponent by 12 in week 17 on aggregate, you win, right? So that's the plan right now for the consolation bracket. We will see.
Teams 11 and 12 will have nothing to do after that first week.
11, 12 won't have anything to do after the first week, but that's the way it normally is, right? Normally you've got a couple of teams that get eliminated early, and usually I want to say it's week 16 is when they would be done. So yeah, there'd be 1 week early for them.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
I mean, they can still set a lineup. I can tell people what their scores are, what the what ifs would be. But in terms of the consolation bracket, it's a long-winded answer of saying that's the plan right now.
Okay, cool.
Tagging on to that, do you have a prediction for who's going to lose the toilet bowl at this point in the season?
Ooh, well, with the format I'm proposing, all bets are off because you've got to say who's the weakest team in week 15. But I would say, I'm going to say Micah, and I'm going to say Josh after he misses the playoffs.
Let's go.
We love that.
We love that.
Wow.
It needs to be a matchup of the brothers. They're going to play each other in week 14, and then they're going to essentially end up together just 2 weeks later.
It's a toilet bowl that the people won.
Yeah, it is what the people want. It's what the people voted for too. So, but yeah, no, carrying along from that, no, I appreciate that. That's helpful to hear because I was reading the slides on like your brother who doesn't obviously read all the work we do for our league, but I was confused by it, so I just did. That's helpful, I think, for the whole league to hear. But so I guess this week we can move into trade talk a little bit, but we saw a lot of trades happen.
Hold up, are we going into the actual trades?
Well, not yet. Well, I just want to ask Dave a question real quick to kind of reiterate the policies of our league because we saw a policy kind of get enacted this week when a trade got vetoed and put back. So could you reiterate for the league kind of our policy on that and what took place there before we get into all the trade talk that happened? Sure.
Happy to do it. So some of you guys might have seen, well, most of you probably saw in the transaction, there was a trade completed that that's very quickly reversed, right? And so we don't talk about this a lot in the league because it doesn't come up often, but ironically, two years back to back, it's happened. But that's essentially what we try to do in the league is, everybody's going to see a trade and everybody's going to disagree with the trade, right? Every single trade you see, you're usually going to disagree with the valuation of the tree on some players, right? But that's kind of the way fantasy is because one, player value is subjective, right? The way one person sees a player can be different than the way somebody else does. And two, even if it's like you would think objectively, oh, this player is better than this one of them could get hurt, and then the next week the value is totally flipped. And so because of that, we really emphasize like, hey, man, this is a free market. Everybody's got the opportunity to make whatever offer they want. If you decide this is the best offer that for your team that gives you the value you want, like it's your team to manage. You make the deal. We're not going to veto it, even if everybody in the league disagrees with it. Like we typically don't veto trades just because we disagree with the value exchanged. Really, the only times that we would veto trades is everybody knows the term collusion. It's never happened in our league. It's when you're actively like working to stack another team. Like, hey, I want you to win. I'm going to give you my good players, right? We don't do that, or we haven't had an incident of that. What we have kind of had a couple times is towards the end of the year, it's always dicey in terms of when you're kind of punting the rest of your season, right? You're like, oh, I know I'm out. I don't really care about this year. I'll just sell for pennies on the dollar. And there's a fine line between selling for keepers, right? Like, hey, I'm going to go get keeper value versus, hey, I just don't really care anymore. I'll just do whatever deal comes my way just to be, kind of move on. And so that's kind of what we ran into this week and debatably last week. I know Ben had some thoughts on his trade last year. So, but as did we all. So basically just talk to Micah, talk to Ryan. They were both very understanding and I appreciated them. But basically, there's a trade sent to Micah. Micah didn't really take much of a look at it, just kind of clicked accept because, obviously he's not really thinking much about the rest of this year, wasn't really aware of some of the ramifications of the trade. And so because of that, hey, talked to him, said, hey, man, this isn't really, that's one of the few things that would cause us to say, hey, that's probably not the best for the league as a whole to push this through because it's not the precedent we want to set. Like the whole free market thing only works if all of us are competitive and because that's in the real free market, that's what drives competition, right? Is everybody's acting in their own self-interest. So if you don't care anymore, just giving up, then it doesn't really help. So long way of saying that's kind of why we flipped it. So yeah, but as long as as long as everyone's making a trade that you're proactive, you're like, hey, I'm actively working to improve my team. Like other people might disagree with it, but this is the player I want to make this trade. Trades go through. We are never gonna veto a trade just because we think it's unfair. Like as long as you as the owners are active and involved and you say this is what I want, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair.
Yeah, it's good.
For transitions and just pretty natural. Which we have quite a little bit to go over. I kind of threw in a number of the trades that have happened over the last, I guess, week and a half. We have a number of people on this call that were involved in trades, starting with a rather big trade that happened between Maresco and Jonesy. Yeah, we're going back a little bit because we didn't cover this, but there were some ramifications on this, and some could say Maresco has a bit of a trading curse in terms of what he imparts onto his opponents. So just wanted to get your impression on this trade, Maresco, quickly, as we'll cycle through a number here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this trade, I kind of threw a trade out to Jonesy. We kind of went back and forth a little bit on a couple of the pieces, but I was trying to get some keeper value for next year, knowing that I'm not in the best place this year, but I also didn't want to punt on the season completely. So I wanted to get players that were going to put up points for me this year. Plus, I also have the keeper value. I didn't love giving up AJ Brown, but at the same time, I feel like I got a pretty similar guy in Amon, and I can keep him next year. So that was big for me. And Devontae's a keeper as well, potentially. Unfortunately, Musgrave got lacerated his kidney the next day, and I thought he was a keeper as well. I thought Clark had drafted him, so that was on me. But I was able to turn Thielen into Connor and get another running back. So to me, it was just, this is what I wanted to do. And Jonesy, he needed another back that was kind of solid to solidify his team, and he got AJ Brown out of it. So and Wilson, if Rodgers ever came back, would be a stud, but just doesn't have a quarterback to throw to him. So yeah, that was kind of my take on it. And I wanted to be a competitive still, but also get some keeper value.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it was Josh, did you have a thought on this trade, a reaction to this trade, if you will?
No, I mean, I think my reaction is I like this deal for both parties. I think it made sense across the board, and yeah, I mean, you kind of you love to see trades like this where there's equal value across, because there are some trades that it's just the value, it doesn't always completely line up. But in my eyes, from an outsider standpoint, I think it's a great deal.
Yeah. following this trade, we had another trade between a couple other individuals that were on the leading into this last weekend set of games. Dave and I were actually in the same physical location for this trade, so we were chatting about things quite a bit. But Dave, I'll let you speak to this first. What you were thinking, pulling the trigger, and then what you gave up, fairness, and then we'll kind of get into it a little bit.
Yeah. So obviously I got the JJ side of this trade, and I know people are low on Rachaad White. I would just say that look at the numbers, look at the production, look at the keeper cost. I actually, so to be completely honest, I actually wonder if I made my team worse by making this trade, because at the time, my three receivers were Tyreek, Puka, and Ayuk, which is a pretty good trio of receivers to start, right? JJ obviously is a tier above them if he's fully healthy and playing well, but like behind Rachaad White, I had nobody. Like Rachaad White, I think, is like the number 6 running back on the season or something like that. Recently, he's like scoring like a top 4 guy because he finally got past all his bad matchups. But I gave him up, and then I basically had no running backs, which you can see on my roster. So really the reason I did it was because I knew that the depth of my roster, the kind of the balance on my roster is never going to compete with Ben or Matt or Jonesy, right? So I was like, I got to lean into my team's strengths, which to me was like receiver. And so I said, and get lucky at the other positions. I said, hey, Tyreek and JJ together would be pretty cool. So I was like, oh, we'll just make that happen, and then we'll figure out something at running back just to get through, right? Because I'm like, hey, maybe somebody will get injured and I'll have the handcuff, or I can trade Puka or Ayuk for a running back, which is what ended up happening, right? So that was my thought process. Obviously, keeper value, no keeper value for JJ, right? Just to kind of get through this year. White's a $5 guy. JSN's too expensive to be a great keeper. He's $12. But I was super high on JSN coming into the league. He's been really disappointing, I think, because Gino's been disappointing. But like in college, JSN played with Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison, the guy coming out next year. And JSN was like the best receiver out of all of them when they were all on the field together at OSU. So like talent-wise, I still think JSN's really good, but you don't see the production because the Seahawks quarterback situation, as I'm intimately familiar with, has not been great. So I think $12, we'll see if Clark actually keeps him, but at least he has the option if he kind of takes off at the end of the year. And then White, again, I think White is just, people are low on him because the name value, and he struggled so hard at the beginning of the year, so people think he's bad. But honestly, if you watch him play and like you look at the workload he's getting like 20 touches a game, and he's young, he catches passes. Like I think he's better than people think. So that's the end of my soapbox.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. And I honestly felt, I don't know if I'd say I felt bad, but at the time we made this trade, Justin Jefferson was still on IR. There had been all the talks about him coming back, maybe for, the Thursday night game or the Monday night game, I forget which. But then he had a bye week coming up, so he might not play until 2 weeks after our trade happened. And if then, it was still uncertain, like probably coming back. But same perspective as what you were saying. I think White's an improvement right now over my backfield. I've been without Justin Jefferson for 4 or 5 weeks. So it's kind of, you learn to live without. And at some point, you've got to get value for him. So kind of the Justin Jefferson side of things. All right, we'll move on here quickly. Sorry, Dan. Sorry we're not entertaining you enough without enough Kirk Cousins talk to stimulate your fanboyness of him without Justin Jefferson involved. But there's an interesting thing with Justin Jefferson where you see like the name value or what his fully healthy value is, and it's like this is the draft price that he should garner, or the trade price that he should garner. And I think oftentimes in trade, there's rarely a one-to-one perfectly fair trade that both owners are willing to pull the trigger on. So I would say that David and I's trade was fairly fair for the reasons that we completed the trade, but like there's rarely a who's someone of Justin Jefferson's value that I'm going to trade directly for, and it's going to work for both of us, and we're both going to want to do that trade. So I think that's kind of the nature of trades in general, but unique to players for sure. Following that trade, we kind of had a smaller trade, but between two individuals that are still on this call, where Maresco flipped Thielen for James Conner. Joshy, shaking your head. What was your thought?
No, it didn't work out. I should have known better than to buy into the Panthers. And to be fair, it was Thielen's first dud the entire season. But the timing of it is kind of funny. And considering my trade partner was Moresco, so.
Russell, you feel good about this one?
Yeah, I mean, to me, Thielen. I mean, the one thing Josh asked for him is Thielen's a dollar keeper, so like that is there. To me, I wasn't planning on keeping him next year, most likely, so it gave me a chance to get a solid running back, especially with Jones out, and then just can't get solid running back play right now. So it just gave me a potentially. I mean, Connor put up 5 points this week, so it didn't really do me much better, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those trades where we're hoping that they'll both perform at a higher level than they did this past week. But yeah, to me, it was Josh texted me about this, and I was like, I thought about it for the day because I honestly was thinking about what I needed to do for next year. So
yeah. I mean, it worked out. Like, I felt like we kind of going into it, like my thinking was, it was like Moresco needed a running back. I needed, at the time I thought I needed, I should have played Hollywood, but I felt like I needed a flex play. And so I don't necessarily like regret the trade. You know what I mean? Like, I think like it, trying to help each other out. I think the value was good, but it just didn't work out. It's what it boils down to.
we'll see. There's still a few weeks left.
Yeah.
You never know.
Exactly.
Yeah, kind of upside being that both these guys could be guys that perform and play well for you, and downside is they're just a guy that sit on your bench. Not the end of the world either way for both of you.
Yeah.
But kind of the trade that was alluded to earlier that everything kind of culminated in was this main one, which was the whopper of a trade. Well, I put multiple trades here. This is prior to the whopper trade. This was David making a number of moves before the big trade that came out with Ryan, and then also Joshy making another trade here. Forgot about this one. But Dave, I'll let you speak to kind of the reorg of your team a little bit post our first trade, what you were thinking of doing here. Or what went into your strategy in terms of what you were thinking after you dished White and you're like, I have no running back on my team?
Yeah, I mean, like when you're starting Ty Chandler and Jeff Wilson as your starting running backs, it's not a great feeling, right, going into the playoffs. So, but I had 4 good receivers, right, and I knew I wanted to hold Tyreek and JJ for just for the upside. So I was like, hey, it's either Ayuk with his keeper value or Puka, who's doesn't have any keeper value. One of those two I'll trade away to get a running back. And so I talked to a couple people last week, I'm going to say, like shotgun multiple times. Joshy and I actually, so the trade we ended up on, I sent him something similar, I think 2 weeks ago, maybe. We just circled back to it. But Josh, I saw after he picked up Gibbs, he had obviously a depth of running backs. I saw that he'd traded for Thielen, hadn't really panned out. So I said, hey, maybe he still wants another receiver because he's got more running backs now. So I added Spears to Puka. Like, I actually think Puka's actually, I think, a pretty good value. People don't realize how good he's been this year. But I was like, hey, Javante's a good keeper. Javante's like $17 or something like that. I need to send some type of keeper value back to Joshy. And then maybe some running back depth. Spears is really just a handcuff at this point, but he's super fun. Like, if anything happened to Henry, he'd be a monster down the stretch. But obviously, Henry's a free agent next year. So Spears is a $1 guy who could be like starting running back for the Titans next year. He's fun to see. So I thought that was good return. And basically I said, hey, I just need 3 startable receivers. That'll be my receivers, my flex. I need a running back to start somewhere else. I like Javonte a lot. Like, I like Sean Payton running backs when he was with the Saints. They always put up points. They get receptions. I did notice after making the trade, I saw this tweet that talked about like the worst running back schedules for the playoffs, for the fantasy playoffs. And it was like Javonte Williams, James Conner, Kenneth Walker. I was like, oh, interesting. All running backs that Josh has traded away over the last 2 weeks. So savvy move by Josh. I'm just hoping that I get some type of production from Javonte. Long way of saying, like, I just needed a running back, had to trade a receiver. That ended up working out. And obviously you and I talked about Watson. Watson's been super disappointing this year. I had much higher hopes for him entering the year. He was a $5 keeper. He still has all the tools. Like, he's super athletic. He's still technically he's supposed to be the Green Bay #1, but you could argue that Reed or Dobbs have been outperforming him. But you saw last week he kind of blew up. So who knows if that was a flash in the pan or if he's starting to turn the corner. But $5 keeper, kind of worth just to take a shot on to see if it develops into anything. And then Keaton Mitchell, not a keeper for you, and then obviously Ravens split their running back touches. But kind of for me, I was like, hey, if I'm putting somebody at an RB2 spot that just kind of has a chance at a couple home runs, right, that's be a good fit for me. So that's why I made that trade.
Yeah, makes sense. Josh, you have another trade on here as well. You kind of moved pieces that you traded throughout the year, right? What were you doing with this one?
You talking about the Gibbs one?
Yeah, Gibbs, Metcalf.
Yeah, so I've been talking to Kevin for a couple weeks, just to kind of feel out where he was at, like what he was thinking. I talked to him before Thanksgiving. He's pretty adamant he wanted like a wide receiver that had some like keeper value, but also somebody who was going to potentially continue like produce this season as well, because he really doesn't want to be in the toilet bowl, his words. So I don't know if it's his infatuation with Philly, but he wanted to wait and see what happened with Dallas Goedert, just in terms of news, because he's been hurt. So things kind of came together. To be honest with you, if I lost to Matt this week, there was potential moves that were going to be made to sort of set me up a little bit more for next year versus winning now. I had, high expectations this year going in, but I also knew kind of getting back into the league and spending some of my money up front to get Brees and Javonte and Pickens, that I don't know if those were the smartest moves. And so I kind of took the approach of, I pretty much, all the players I drafted were, I think the most I spent was like on Keenan Allen, which was like $29. And so I didn't have high expectations, but to be honest with you, I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. And so I was able to kind of pull the trigger this week with Kevin and put myself in, I think, a position to at least compete. We'll see. I think it's going to be hard to beat Ben right now, it feels like. So see how it goes.
That's fair. And good trades to try and improve your stock this year, right?
Yeah.
Which does take us to the big trade, the trade that ended up not being a trade. Maresca, what was your reaction to this when you saw it come through?
Kind of the reaction that we just heard from Dave, that it wasn't thought through at all. Because to me, it was Micah giving up two of his best keepers for basically Kyler Murray, in my opinion, like out of all those players that potentially would be kept. So to me, this doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, I don't know. I wasn't like, when I first looked at it, I didn't realize that was the keeper value. And then I looked at it a second and third time, and I was like, that makes 0 sense. So to me, it was, Micah's kind of said it to me too. He wasn't paying attention when he got the thing and just kind of did it. So to me, Ryan was getting better this year and better next year, and Micah was getting worse this year and worse next year. So that to me doesn't seem like a fair trade in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. Josh, did you have a thought here?
No, to be honest, I didn't have. This is one of the few times, maybe it's because I'm getting older and maturing a little bit, but I just kind of like, okay. Didn't really formulate much of an opinion on it, and just like, so I know, obviously, I think Dave already touched on this, like, it wasn't like there was any collusion happening here. There was no ill intent or whatever, it's just Micah clicking the button without really thinking about it. And it happens. I feel bad, Kind of stinks to have a trade vetoed. I've had that happen. But Yeah.
You've had that happen? When did we veto a trade of yours?
I've had 2 trades vetoed, I believe.
It was one with Nat. Wasn't it a Natalie trade a couple of years ago?
So I guess we'll get into the details of that in a second. But Dave, I've got a question for you, and we can get rid of this trade. We'll talk. Don't worry, Josh. We'll get into your
I
degree
remember.
about trading. Dave, and I know the premise, and I agree with the premise of kind of trust every owner to make a decision that's in their best interest, right? And there was a trade last year that was kind of in a similar position, not quite to this one, but and as Josh has alluded to a few pages before, what kind of goes into the process of deciding something should be investigated, if you will? Big Butkus over here is real loud. Mute him. Deciding that something should be investigated or at least talked to and potentially vetoed. What's kind of there? Because I think a lot of owners might see it and be like, well, why are we interfering with the individual owner's decision? And I know we kind of talked about this a little while ago, but from your responsibility as a commissioner, what's kind of your approach there?
Yeah, I mean, it's usually the number of like one-to-one text messages I receive after a trade is completed is usually my KPI for that one. No, but honestly, it's just it's just, man, I look at the trade. I'm like, if it's like way out of whack, like it was like, hey, for that one, I was like, hey, Pacheco's a $5 keeper. Nobody else on this other side is really like that good of a keeper. I feel like Micah should be holding on to keepers. I need to ask the question. But honestly, like I'm in I don't want to say it was a bad habit, but I tend to, as soon as I see a trade, I just click it. I click allow. Like I should have caught it before I clicked allowed and then addressed it. I mean, you guys would all have seen it pending, but I essentially, I clicked it. And as soon as I started looking at it after I clicked allow, I was like, ooh, maybe this one is one I should have texted about them sooner before doing that. So, but honestly, that's all it is. It's like, if it's like, I do the same thing. I'll look at a trade. It's like, that's not very fair. Like I wouldn't have made that trade, or like, I think that person's taking advantage of that other person, but it's not my job to enforce that. Like it's my job to just make sure like, hey, everybody's competitive. Everybody's trying their best. People are doing it in different ways. Right. And so I think that's why this one in particular is like, hey, if something's super out of whack, like, not, and everything's subjective, but if we kind of get more to the objectively, there's not a lot of value coming back on just one side relative to what's going out. That's when and honestly, usually what I try to do is I just start a text thread with the 2 managers who made the trade. I was like, hey man, getting some questions about this one. Like, can you just talk through what you're thinking? And then we just talk it through.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think that's a good approach to it. Joshy, we can loop back around now to what Ben's alluding to as well, which is what trades of yours were vetoed, and did you feel like they were justifiably vetoed? And also, side note, was this before or after you dropped out of the league the first or second time?
I think this is before I dropped out of the league.
Okay.
First time.
So, clean slate at this point.
I think at the time it was Austin Eckler and maybe Devontae Parker for Todd Gurley, he was kind of on the downslide. And then
Rams Todd Gurley.
Rams. It was like his last year. I don't think you had him. I think it was after the glory year.
I dropped him after that. Yeah.
And then there's a Colts running back. Who was the?
Do you want the answer, Josh? I'm looking at it right now.
I forget. Who was it?
So Josh was sending away Austin Eckler, yes. Leonard Fournette, who back then, this was 2019.
So it was post Jags, or was it injured Jags?
I think it's last season with the Jags. And Tyrell Williams, questionable there. And he was receiving back Todd Gurley, yes, Marlon Mack, and Tyreek Hill. So I don't know. That one doesn't seem – I'd have to know more about like what Fournette and Gurley were putting up at the time. But Tyreek obviously was still with the Chiefs. He was a monster back then. Eckler, I think, was still splitting with Gordon at that point, so might not have been as good as
yeah.
Yeah. If you can automate me, Dan, please do it. I would love it.
Dan doesn't have the best track record. I think Dan's been trying to automate a lot of his duties over the years as commissioner, and his best solution for automate was hire David.
Yeah. He's trying to do that with real work too, right? And I'm like, I'd love to work with Dan sometime, but maybe you just turn into this fantasy league as well, you know?
Josh, you said multiple trades. Was there any evidence of a second trade that was vetoed, or are you just making
I don't. No, I'm probably making one up. No, I mean, I remember at the time I was kind of upset for sure.
You're super pissed.
Which
I think he
one?
texted me a couple times like, hey man, just letting you know, like, I understand why you did it, but to be quite honest, I don't know if I'm coming back next year. I was like, oh. And then he didn't.
That's what he said.
That's something along those lines.
We got to the bottom of why he quit.
Oh, man alive.
No, but I mean, like, I look back now, I mean, I think if you go back and look at the numbers, again, I think name value, people got caught up in that. That's my personal opinion. I do not remember Tyreek Hill being involved in this deal.
I think that's why people were upset. It seems to me that Hill is the primary piece that people were concerned about.
I don't remember this trade. I thought it was Marlon Mack, Todd Gurley.
Almost left the league.
It was a 2 for 2.
You did leave the league because of it.
I think it was Eckler and a wide receiver.
So, Josh, if you ever want to see past trades on desktop, go to our league. You'll see a drop down for the year, and you can go to past years. And then the transactions, you click trades. So if you go to 2019 transactions trades, you'll see the one I think we're talking about.
That was the trade. So
run CMC.
I'm gonna walk
Was
back
the team
and not say anything now. I think that's the wise thing to do here.
Yeah, I mean, it is also. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say my memory is not good.
Yeah,
it's also good to point out in the documents which Dave has circulated in the past, like that around trade clauses, around good faith trades, and all that. That we play fantasy for fun. This is supposed to be an enjoyable thing, not something that anyone's getting too bent out of shape or, God forbid, quitting the league over. But
God forbid.
Yeah. So it can be tough. And I understand it's upsetting. I mean, I can't understand it's upsetting. I'm in like last place in the league, but it's all for good fun.
I was just looking. I then proceeded to get Tyreek and Todd Gurley from Natalie.
I saw that. I was like, wait, Nat couldn't have traded Tyreek because she traded him later. I was like, oh, that's why that's the trade.
Well, we're running a little long here, but we still got to do picks for this upcoming week and Fab Picker Wheel. So we threw together a few quick categories. Yeah, Maresco? You just said
Huh?
I think you need to put Micah on there one more time.
You need to put him on there?
Probably.
Do it one more time.
He hasn't won it this entire time, even with multiple slots on the Picker Wheel. Well,
I don't think he's going to win it this time.
Let's see.
Either.
It's been a long time.
Wait, team with most waiver moves, is that like cumulative on the season?
It's going to be at the point of.
Ooh, never mind.
Finally.
Congrats, Micah.
I think that might have been the second Micah, though. So it's really not a true winning of the waiver of the wheel, you know? All right, well, Micah, I guess regardless of what happens this week, we're giving you Fab. Might be a little bit abuse of two-timers power here, but Picker Wheel does what the Picker Wheel does. So we can hop right into picks for the week. You guys want to wager any Fab this week? I'm fine with not.
I've got like $5 left, so.
Oh yeah, I was curious. I think I should have done this better, so I'd be at zero. I think I have $1 left after my claims this week.
Do you care to wager the $1 you have left?
Yeah, I'll bet my $1.
I'll do $1.
What odds will you give? What odds will you give me? Can I take a handicap?
I'm not giving any odds.
You make my pick. You got to make two of my picks for me.
Josh is technically the most successful at this, so I'll let him determine odds.
No, I'll bet one.
Loser,
Yeah.
winner, $1.
I'll just go one. Yeah.
Ben, we'll do some record digging and make sure that you are
No way.
paid if
Oh,
possible.
I think he's talking about the bet. I think I owe him probably $1 or $2 or something.
Oh, from our picks, yeah, we need to look into that too. I'm bad at
You know, for all those bets, like I have to replay your videos and figure out what goes where, and then make all the adjustments, right?
I can send you those, Dave.
Yeah.
But
I probably don't have enough to cover all mine now. So
to be fair, we do have to replay the videos just to put the picks in place as well. So.
I'll cover any outstanding debt from Resco.
Any outstanding deck, Ben?
Any
How much do we owe you? Like $40 in Fab?
I mean, Josh has 30 of my Fab dollars, so
Wow.
Josh, would you have added Fab to our trade if I'd asked you for it?
Yeah, 100%.
Damn it.
Interesting. All right. Well, we're going $1 Fab for David.
Dan, I gave you $2 back on November 22nd. Is that what you're referring to?
I think that's what it was.
Yeah,
That's what we
$2 for whatever. That was when you and Hannah were both on. I think.
yeah.
Hannah
I
did
think that
not.
came to me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the fact that a lot of times we're going to have people with the same pick outcome because of the limited number of picks. It ends up being that like only one or two people are winning and or paying out Fab, and then everyone. So it was everyone wagered $2, Ben, but you didn't outperform everyone. You just outperformed some people, I think. So what we ended up doing is like the biggest loser paid you, opposed to like there being one pot. We can do one pot and say everyone pays into this pot, and the best record takes it. If you guys want to do that this week,
We should do that this week. So my
Okay.
$1 goes further.
there you go. All right, this week the highest record will pay out. Okay, well I don't know. There were probably some people in the middle that were like tangible that we didn't pay out. We didn't define the rules well. Okay, Ben, we'll do it. We'll get it right next time. All right. So winner take all in this round. David's putting forward $1. Does anyone want to put anything else forward?
Feel free to put as much as you
let's all
want.
put $1 in. Let's all put $1 in.
Someone put $10 in.
I think we should put out a percentage of our remaining pot. Like,
I'm putting in 100% of my remaining Fab.
how much do all of us
I
have?
That is fair.
I am
That is
all
true.
in.
Yes.
Let's see.
I'll throw in $7.
Josh,
Nobody else has to match mine.
$59 of wager budget left. And all you're willing to part with is $7, Josh?
Sounds like he's afraid of losing.
I think we just put Natalie and Brian's in the pot and just winner takes all.
All right, I'll do $10. That's
Maresco, you have what, 7 left? I have 17. Josh, if I will put $10 in if you put $20 in.
Me and Dave are just sitting here quiet. We're like, yeah.
It doesn't matter to me.
That's like, I need to take these
3 more
picks
days.
very, very seriously right now.
I'll do 15.
15. All right, then I'll do 7. No, screw it. I'll do 10. 10, 15. What did you say, Maresco? 5?
I didn't say 5, but I'll do 3. I have
Okay,
$7 left. That's 50.
All right, fine. We got
45% of my budget.
We got 1. We got 3. We got 10, 14. And what do you say, 15, Josh? So we're at $29. 29 total pot. We'll revisit this. All of it will go to the person with the best record. Dan apparently wants to put in 275. No idea how that's going to work out, but we'll
Let's get the picks.
$95? Jeez.
In the case of a tie, split between the two winners.
in case of the tie, split between the two winners. Yeah, highest
Oh,
record. Yeah. All right.
I just have to place now.
Now we'll get to the actual matchups, starting with me versus Weggy. We can go in order. We'll go, at least on my screen, me, Maresco, David, Josh. We'll rotate one down. So this is probably ill-advised with money on the line. No, never mind. I'm going Weggy.
Kevin.
Oh, I'm up. I go Clark.
Oh,
Yeah, I think you've got a couple players with shootouts on your team.
No, Rashad White's playing
Although
Carolina.
I wish you were starting somebody instead of Algier, but other than that, I feel good about it.
I don't think that Kenneth is going to play tomorrow night.
I'll go Kevin.
Kevin, all right. So Dave's got a breakaway opportunity on the first pick. Maresco, this one goes to you first.
I'm gonna go Dave.
I also pick myself. This is for the number 2 seed. Nat can take it from me.
I'll go Dave.
Is everyone going Dave as of right now?
Yeah.
I'll also go Dave. Keep it safe. Dave, this one's going to go to you first. You got Dan versus Raw Dog.
Ooh,
Timer over here.
this is a good one. I called this one out in the summary. Both of these guys need to win out, so a big matchup for both of their playoff hopes.
Yeah, he won against me, and his name was Jeff.
I go Dan. Sorry, tough.
All good.
Is Jones going to play?
I don't know yet.
Yeah,
I think so because it's Sunday night, but we'll see.
yeah.
I'll go Dan.
I'd just like to take a moment to point out that because of his love for the name and the person, Dan is clinging to Christian Kirk because he feels reminiscent of Kirk Cousins. I'm going to pick Dan.
It's a long way to get there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go myself.
All right. Joshy, this one's going to go to you first.
Oh, this is going to be such a fun matchup to watch. Oh my gosh. Oh. I'll go Ben. He's just got some nice matchups.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if Jonesy wins this.
This could be a tight one. I'm going to go Ben. I think that Mostert is going to have a huge day against Washington.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm also going Ben.
I also go Ben.
There's the sweep. That's happened a lot this year. I bet we've had more peaks.
But that's so I called it out too. That was a big one too because Jonesy, basically everybody else trying for a playoff spot needs Jonesy to lose. So pretty much everybody is going to be rooting for Jonesy to lose except for Jonesy this week.
So actually, before we go on,
Go ahead,
Ben's locked up the 1 seed, correct? If I remember
Correct.
reading the things. Okay.
Has he completely? I thought he had like a 1% chance of ending up in the 2 seed or something.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, there's a small chance. Like if he lost the next 2 games, I mean, but that would mean that basically Matt would win out and then have to beat Ben on tiebreaker because I can't do it. So I think he's basically got it locked up.
Yeah, because it's got the points thing involved as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Hannah on this one.
I'm also going Hannah.
Hannah as well.
Hannah.
Although I don't know why he doesn't have a kicker because he had 2 on his roster.
Actually, I have 2 on my roster right now, too.
Speaking of which, it's Josh's matchup this week. The rest of this one goes to you first.
Oh, true then. Yeah, Ben, I guess if I won out and you lost
Everything, right?
yeah, if you'd have to lose that, I'd have to win out. So yes, that could happen. I mean,
Okay.
I'm gonna go Josh.
Ooh, this is a good one. But I think I'm going Josh as well. Yeah.
Disappointment in your voice
I can't
there.
pick Baker. Still can't. For as much as Ben loves him, just can't do it. Just when you trust him the most.
Yep. Well, if Baker goes off, I'll probably benefit from it. So.
Oh, true. Not if he's throwing to Rashad White.
True. Good point. I'm gonna go myself.
I think I'm gonna go Josh as well. Mainly just because I think Mitch has rough running back matchups this week.
Well, he has a bunch of good players on bye. That's what's killing him this week.
Oh, does he really? Is his bench pretty
Mhm.
rough?
Yeah.
Josh Jacobs,
Jacob.
Hawkinson,
Fields.
Fields. That's brutal.
To wrap up, we've got Matt and Ryan.
Ooh.
Matt on a bit of a down sweep at the moment. See if that turns around.
Matt on a down sweep, but I would probably still take him over the island, I think. So, yeah, I go Matt.
Oh, he's got a lot of question marks right now on his roster. I'll go Matt.
Man, I'm gonna go Matt.
You know what? I'm going to change my answer back. I'm going to go with Ryan.
Any particular reason? They're in the
Uh,
Jack games.
Just to see some chaos. But no, if I remember, Josh mentioned Q's. I think Tank Dell has a concussion, which means he probably won't play. And then Keenan missed. So, yeah, I think some of his questionable guys might be limited. And then I think that Kamara could have a big game because the Saints have nobody else anymore right now.
Can you show Matt's bench real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ben's right.
He can't
HEN could have a very big game against Washington.
Oh,
I could see them just destroying us, and they're like, hey, kid, have the second half.
I might switch mine too. I forgot Matt. I'll go Ryan.
I'm gonna stick with Matt.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Matt as well.
So 2-2. All right, that wraps it up from a weekly picks situation, and it's winner take all in the pool. Just to clarify that again, in case there's any disparity with however much money from everyone. Josh said that if he wins, he'll put $50 into the pool. So
Love it. I heard that too.
Yeah. Well, I know this was a longer episode and a little delayed in the start, but thanks to everyone for being here. Dave, thanks for being here. Appreciate your calming and authoritative presence comparatively to the other commissioner we had on a little while ago. So
Yeah,
he just
those are also my adjectives in bed. So
I sincerely hope not. I don't know. Would you want to be described as calming and authoritative?
I mean, sure.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Like, why you?
One can only dream, I suppose, on my end.
No, thanks for having me, guys. Hey, I just want to say thanks. This has been a really fun watch this whole year. So I know it takes time out of you guys' evenings and prepping for this. So I think it's been a really fun add to the league. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to do it.
Yeah,
It's fun.
it's been a good time. We got a few more people that haven't been on yet that we still need to root back in, and eventually we got to get Colin back on here. Maybe we'll make a little special edition for a return of Colin if we can.
It's true.
But
It'd be fun.
Mitch is the other two-timer who hasn't made it on yet. Yeah.
I don't think Mitch has never been on since the beginning of Two Timers last year. So we'll have to hit him up and get him on here as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Would be the only potential three-timer. It depends if Maresco and Dan make the playoffs. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, three-timer, like in terms of the term two-timer, it's back-to-back champion. So
Oh, when did that happen?
well, when I won it back-to-back.
Okay, I see.
Yeah,
And
when was the last time a Dean won, though?
It's been a few years.
It has been a while.
When was the last time you won, Josh?
I haven't, but another Hinders has won it.
So you're claiming Dan's fame.
Sure. I'll piggyback off of him.
There's definitely more Dean wins than Hinder wins, though.
I was gonna say
There's more.
Chris has got the trophy right there. How many times do you see Dean on the trophy, and how many times do you see Hinders?
There's more Marescos on the trophy than Hinders, and there's like 7 Hinders in this league.
The Maresco family is the second most successful, or debatably.
Thorson, too.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be changing, boys.
Now, what's the percentage of saturation of the Hinders family in our league, given how many other families are dominant in the win column? Josh has gone silent.
That's a good point.
I'll be honest. I don't mind if Ben or Matt wins, but I just don't want to ship the trophy that far. So
So you're saying you prefer Josh win?
no, not Josh. Anyone but Josh.
If you had to pick a Hinders to win, this will be our closing question. Josh, you're out of this one. David and Maresco, if you had to pick a Hinders to win, to suffer through that, who would you pick?
Definitely Micah, you know?
That's the biggest cop out. That would have been hilarious though if Micah had come in and won the league his first year.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
Ben, you can pick it up when you come visit.
Maresco, who what Hinders for you?
I'm gonna go with Micah as well.
Strong answer.
Micah, Dan, or Natalie is fine. Any of those three.
I would say the Hinders that I want to see win the trophy the most, if we have to suffer through a Hinders winning, is 100% Hannah. Because it would be amazing for Hannah to have the trophy there in Ben's house, and Ben would not be able to.
She would talk some incredible shit about it.
That's true.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not going to argue that.
Well, on that note, we'll see if the trophy ends up with the Hinders this year or not. But thanks everyone for being here, and hope everyone has success this weekend in fantasy.